fat in a diet has no impact on VLDL, and VLDL is the only source of LDL. And yet when people say, if you eat too much fat, your LDL level will go up, and I go, okay, talk me through the process. And they'll go,
butter, is it good for your heart? What about bacon, ribeye?
Saturated animal fat has never been damaging. I mean, the don't eat so many bloody carbohydrate diet is healthy for you. Science is there. The truth is there. It doesn't go away. Your brain is 25% made of cholesterol. So imagine blocking cholesterol production in your brain. What do you think that's going to do, gentlemen?
My guest speaker is Dr. MALCOLM KENDRICK. He's a best-selling author and one of the most outspoken voices in cardiovascular health. And his research has reshaped how many people, including doctors, think about heart disease. And in this conversation, we're diving deep into the science, the controversy, and the real effects of eating fat on your heart and your health. So Dr. Kendrick, my first question, if someone is just eating eggs, bacon, and red meat every single day, is that going to destroy their heart?
Well, no. What everyone thinks is bad for you with regard to your heart, which is eggs, you've got lots of cholesterol, butter is got fat in it. I mean, the basic things that people say are bad for you, right? Ribeye steaks and butter and cream and cheese and whatever. I looked at this. I've been looking at this for many, many years, and it's just complete nonsense. There is no evidence. There has never been any evidence whatsoever, not a molecule of evidence, that eating a diet like that will be harmful to your heart. Such evidences that I've found, and when you're looking at diet evidence, it's always rather difficult to get any absolutes. Because as you can imagine, they ask people about their diet and everybody lies to start with. And then everyone tells you things like, well, I eat nothing but a cabbage leaf and stuff like this. And you think, well, that's clearly just nonsense. But in so much as it's been done, the evidence is that if you eat a higher fat, and by which I mean animal fat, not vegetable fat diet, that this has positive impacts on all the things that might affect your heart. I think the most important one of those is probably blood sugar levels. Because in general, if you're eating fat, you're not eating carbohydrates. And if you're not eating carbohydrates, your blood sugar level isn't going to start going out of control. You're not going to put pressure on your liver to deal with all that extra carbohydrate, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, it's sort of ironic. I did the man who's sort of most famous behind this is Ansel Keyes, who did his infamous 6 or 7 country study, depending on who you read, where he sort of drew a graph showing that the more fat you ate, the more heart disease you had, and it was a sort of went up to infinity very rapidly. But he chose his countries. He looked at 21 countries, and then actually, had he put France in there, for instance, the graph would have gone upside down quite quickly for him. But he chose not to because he had an idea, he had a belief, he had an absolute belief that if you ate fat and or cholesterol and or he never made it very clear what he was talking about, that your blood cholesterol would go up and then you would have heart disease and then you would die of heart attacks. Now that evidence was poor to non-existent to complete nonsense. In fact, he did a study in the 1960s and 1970s, and he did it in I think it was primarily in mental hospitals, so you could really control the diet of these people, where he swapped out fats, saturated fats, for polyunsaturated fats, and the people's cholesterol level, whatever he meant by that, it's difficult to define, went down, which was theoretically good. But actually, for every 1 millimole fall in your cholesterol level, the rate of heart disease deaths went up 20%, which there's 2 interesting things about that study. First is it completely contradicted everything everybody thinks. It completely contradicted everything he'd ever said, and it wasn't published. It was just suppressed. But the data were found in 2016 and were published like 50 years after he did this study. The data came out showing everything he had said was contradicted by his study. And you can find examples of this again and again and again. And then you think, well, what happened? You know, the original Framingham study, which you may have heard of, which was set up in the States just after the Second World War. And this was also another place where this idea came about from. And what they actually found with regards to cholesterol, and they never published this data, it was found, if you like, in the same way by researchers who were sort of scraping around, found that the people whose cholesterol levels fell over 25 years of the study were the people whose heart disease rates went up the most during that period, which was again an exact contradiction. So every time you look at the evidence and you don't just listen to what people have said, you find actually fat, saturated fat and cholesterol are all very healthy things. I mean, Ansel Keyes himself started by saying, if you eat cholesterol, your cholesterol level will go up. He did experiments on humans and fed them eggs, on like 10 eggs a day or something. And what he found was it had absolutely no impact on their blood cholesterol level. None. Now, he knew this. So he just changed his mind. He said, oh, it's not cholesterol. It's saturated fat that raises your cholesterol. And we're like, well, isn't that a completely different thing? These are not the same things. These are completely different molecules. They are completely different things. So you said it was one. That was wrong. Now you're saying it the other. You have no evidence for it. And now the world believes this idea. I do find myself looking and thinking, well, evidence has no impact on you whatsoever. So what does,